cabinet meetings were little chats. There were never a proper consideration of all the options. This is terrifying but true, and it means our political institutions are unreliable and incapable of making proper considered decisions. At the time, when the attorney came, and I only remember him coming once right at the end, I was stunned by his opinion that he brought to the cabinet. But I accepted that in such a matter the Attorney General would not bring a concocted opinion. I now know he did. And I conclude the arrangements we have for ensuring UK compliance with international law are unsafe, and the way in which the Attorney General is appointed is unsafe, and that our constitutional arrangements need restructuring. This is one of the important issues the inquiry must attend to. It's often argued that the invasion of Iraq went well and was welcomed by all, and what then went wrong, and what was wrong was, I think the honourable gentleman on the back bench over there, who I think was previously in the armed forces, implied this point, was that no proper arrangements were made for post-conflict Iraq. Indeed, it's sometimes suggested that because of my doubts about the war, I prevented such preparations being made in the Department for International Development, though quite how I'm responsible for American policy, I'm not sure. This claim is completely untrue, as a proper scrutiny of the historical record will demonstrate. Careful and detailed preparations were made in the US State Department, volumes of them. Louis Frechette, the Deputy General Secretary of the United Nations, also made detailed preparations to bring together the international effort that would be required to rebuild Iraq. My old department made preparations liaising carefully with the State Department, the UN and other international actors. And then, just a couple of months before the planned invasion, President Bush passed responsibility for post-war reconstruction to the Pentagon that set up the new agency ORHA. And all the State Department preparations were junked. No liaison with the UN and no liaison with the international community. Andrew Natsios, the Republican then head of USAID, was saying then the danger in post-war Iraq is chaos. And if we sack everyone in the Ba'ath Party, there will be no institutions that function. It's absolutely crucial that it's only the top people and everyone else is left in place. That advice was wiped away and we got exactly what he predicted. I mean, this is incredible. In the run-up to the war, I thought, this can't happen in a nation like the United States. They've got Harvard, Princeton, Yale, educated people. We can't make such an error. But the hubris was such, the belief that the invasion would be welcomed, that there was no need for all this international cooperation. And because of the deceit that had gone into the purpose for war, we got the chaos of the thereafter. These are very serious things I'm saying, and they are, I think, the absolute true record. And this, the inquiry must bring out. Because Britain needs to decide what country it wants to be. Do we want to adhere to international law, or do we want to junk it? Israel's junking international law in the occupied territories. Do we want to look forward to a future where international law no longer has any authority? Because it's a future of chaos and instability. Of course, I'll give...
I'm grateful, Honourable Lady. I think she doesn't lose any time on this one. But could she just alert us, because one of the big issues about this row between the State Department and Pentagon and what was going on in the White House, at any stage, was she aware that the government made strong overtures about what was going on explicitly to require that a different system was put in place post the war in Iraq? Because I could never quite understand what our influence or lack of it was in this whole process, in the fact that we had a vested interest in getting this right and somehow seemed not to have any view on it. I'm not saying she didn't, but I'm saying officially the government seemed to have no view on this one at that time. I just wondered, was that the case?
The problem is, because this was being driven from, I'm running out of time, by the Prime Minister on the phone to the White House, British systems were breaking down. One part of the government is giving this advice, the other not. The final point I want to make is that because of the deceit, there wasn't proper consideration of all the policy options. There were other ways of bringing down Saddam Hussein. Yes, get rid of the sanctions, indict him like we did with Milosevic, let the Iraqi people help to do it. None of the other options were considered. This is a disgrace to our history, and it shows that our institutions don't work. We need an inquiry that will lay all of this out, from which we can learn the lessons about both decision-making and our role in the world, and never, ever engage in something like this again, which has left terrible destabilising effects on the wider Middle East.